Hello, hello. It is Wednesday. I'm Teacher Michelle, and I am surrounded by some of the most beautiful daffodils. And if you know Leanne, and if you watch live, you know these are her favorite flowers, but I'm the one that gets to play with them today. She's probably going to take some home. She's giving me Korean stink eye over there right now. But you guys are going to get to learn a little bit about daffodils today. You're going to get to learn a little bit about flower farming today. And because I don't know the names of any of these, I'm going to bring up somebody who does know the names of them. In fact, she grew them. She's a graduate of FDI, and she is my personal friend to boot. So Linda DePersis, please come up and join me.
Hi everyone, it's so fun to be back again.
Well, glad to have you.
Thanks.
And as usual, she and her husband rolled up with a carload of gorgeous flowers. I literally have one bunch of everything up here and some branches that didn't even make it on set. So I don't know that we'll get to use all of the beauty today, but I do know our tulips are going to want to know. The tulips want to know about the daffodils.
Absolutely.
So can you run us through the names of
Yes.
all these beauty? Like this one is so soft and delicate.
Oh, she's so delicate. Okay, that one is called Pink Charm.
Of course she is.
Yeah, she's one of our earlier bloomers.
She's super pretty. And then this one, you told me a fun thing about this one and I love it.
Okay, I love this one too. I love all of them. But this one right here is called Chroma Color. It's kind of neat because they change a little bit the colors, like some are a little more gold and then a little more tangerine orange. But when they're growing in their beds, to me, they look like just a whole river of goldfish swimming because the color is like little goldfish. And when the wind blows, they just kind of move around like that. So that one is a really happy one.
And they're very roughly, what do you call is this the trumpet?
That's the trumpet.
The trumpet
yep.
is very crepe paper looking. It's not texture like crepe paper, but it has the ribbing kind of feel of crepe paper. And they have a little bit of fragrance.
A light scent, yes.
Oh, those are nice. Those might have to go home with me. And then we have 3 varieties in this little vase here. What's the big yellow fella here?
This one is called Modern Art, and this was the first season I grew her, and I also love her. I like her trumpet is really ruffled and soft. Mm-hmm. It just looks a little different. I'm not a big fan on a lot of trumpet ones, but I do love that.
It is gorgeous, so much texture. And then, I'm going to save that one. Okay. But what's the lemony yellow? She is super pretty.
Okay, the lemony yellow one, I had to look to make sure I had it right. This one is called Westward. And this is what I typically like, how there's like double layers on those trumpets, double, triple, maybe 4 different layers on them. They're really roughly like petticoats.
Oh my God. Okay, that's a really good description. They are very, like a 1950s ball gown kind of thing. And then this one is really cool looking.
Okay, so like it's kind of like that salmon color inside. Again, it's another roughly trumpet. This one is called Extravaganza. She is one of my very latest ones to bloom. And that's kind of nice because you have all the early ones and then this one comes on and it's that deep color that everyone is looking for.
Absolutely. So when you say that's an early bloomer, that's a late bloomer, I know that varies depending on the year, but when do typically early bloomers come and when does your season end?
Last year I was looking back through my pictures and it looked like we still had daffodils going close towards Mother's Day, which was sort of surprising. We'll see how they do. If you cut them in the gooseneck stage where they're still kind of puffy and not wide open and you put them in their holding solution and you stick them in a cooler, they can last a couple of weeks like that without it degrading the vase life.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty neat.
I didn't know that.
Some of those earlier ones, like the Pink Charm comes on pretty early for us. Queen's Day is a yellow one that comes on early. That one started, I would say, like that first week of March this year.
Okay.
And they'll just go all the way through. I expect to have them through the end of April. If it gets really hot, maybe we'll lose some. Maybe they'll stop blooming, but usually right up to about almost Mother's Day.
Okay, that's a nice long season for daffodils. I for some reason they're a February flower to me, which they really aren't.
They really kind of aren't. And I always think that too. I'm like, where are they in February?
And I wonder why I think that it's a February flower.
I think it's because we see a lot of the kind of like commercial ones, those yellow ones.
Yes.
The yellow trumpets pop up and they're bringing them in from Holland. King Alfred.
Yeah, that's what's probably in the yard.
You'll see those.
And then you've got two varieties in this one.
Okay. So this one right here, Boy, that one looks a lot like the pink charm that I just had back here. Yeah, I think this one is another pink charm. They just like have different colors.
All right. Well,
depending on like,
that's good.
This is probably a tiny bit older than this one.
Gotcha.
So I think that one's a pink charm. And then this fun one right here, this one is called geranium. And I like it because it's multiple heads. So you see on this one here, there's going to be like 4 blooms on this one. Sometimes they have anywhere from like 3 to 5 blooms. And they'll just keep opening up so it makes it last longer. And it's just something different.
That's really nice in a vase design. Well, in any arrangement, because if we're designing for a customer, of course, we want them to have a longer vase life or a longer bloom cycle. And if it's a one and done, it's like, oh, there's a big hole there now.
Yeah.
But now it's just going to keep popping
And they'll
along.
just keep opening up like that. So that's kind of neat too, to plan on it.
Awesome. And this is the one that smelled really good, right?
Well, that one
that
and the
one
bridal
just-
crown, which is in that
Is
stack
on the
over
other
there.
side? All right. Well, I'm going to jump in and start poking some of these gorgeous posies that Linda and her husband brought in. And we're just going to chat about flower farming and flowers. And I'm going to grab some of the beautifulness that is off stage right at the moment.
It's my favorite thing to talk
So
about.
while she's doing that, if you would pull the doubled orange you sent her,
Oh, this one.
maybe, that one, Christine says they call it scrambled eggs.
Do you mean like that's the name of the variety is one called scrambled
I think
eggs?
she just calls it.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you really zoom in on it too, it's more of a salmon color. There's a couple of them that I call scrambled eggs too. I think like Eggs Benedict and Queen's Day has that egg yolk color that I think of, but that's a fun way to call it.
That is a cute name,
I
though,
like that.
scrambled eggs. Oh my, okay, maybe we're just gonna have to muscle through with hands. There we go, all right. So this is a flowering pear that you brought in,
Yes.
correct? And while it is lovely, it smells like bad crab. It smells like Newport at the end of a long hot weekend. It's not a great smell, to be honest. And isn't this what we have outside the building, Leanne, is the flowering pear? Yeah, if it's really warm and you walk by, you're like, oh, that's not good. But she is so pretty, we cannot not use her. And what I have here is just, I'm going to have to change that because she's going to spin. I just have some of the Midnight Oasis that I've soaked in flower food water. And now I have a lovely big hole that I made, so we'll have to do something with that down the road. But I wanted to make sure that we use some of it because those blooms are just way too pretty. So for those of us that don't know, I guess I should, for those of the tulips that don't know, I know, so I'm asking you questions I already know the answer to in some cases, but tell me how you got started with the flower farming and how you got into flowers, period. Because I know it's been a while since you graduated.
Yes. Okay. How did I start my flower farm? That's a really good question. It's been a long time. So I think that wherever we lived, I just always loved flowers, like a lot of you probably do too. So I just kept putting more and more flowers into our suburban yard. Anytime we would move, we'd try to find the yard that was the biggest to get the house. And that's what I did, is I would rip it all up with my husband and we would plant flowers. So I guess that was always in the background. And then my daughter was going to get married and she asked me if I would grow the flowers for her wedding. And of course I said, sure, I can do that. And I tried that. She wanted snapdragon. She was getting married in August. All of my snapdragons bloomed in July. There was a big learning curve for me, but we muddled through. And so from there, it was just something I kind of just kept wanting to do, more and more flowers. It's what we loved. And at some point, I was trying to sell these flowers to florists in town, and then I found out about the Portland Flower Market, and I found out people are actually flower farmers, and if you do this right, you can actually make a living with it.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And we had 17 acres, and we got into the Portland Flower Market, just kind of a small grower with our dahlias, and it just took off from there. And so...
And when you say... Well, you said 17 acres, right?
Yes.
Are all 17 acres in flowers now? I mean, apart from where you live.
I have to ask my husband how many, because I'm always like, it's all flowers and it's foliages and it's fruit trees that we use the blossoms off of. I don't know, maybe like 11 acres, 12? How many do you think?
Probably about 10 acres in production right now.
he's saying 10 acres in production right now. So we do have a lot of perennials in there. I don't have very many annuals actually, but we do a lot of the bulbs, tubers, shrubs, perennials, and then just a light sprinkling of annuals.
And I have been on this farm, and y'all, it is in the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful parts of Oregon. You're surrounded by the Coast Range. You've got big sky. The soil is black. It's the color of Midnight Oasis. It is so rich. And I swear your weeds are ginormous.
Our weeds
grow.
are ginormous.
They are
it's so
the
great.
happiest weeds I've ever seen.
That's something to be really excited about.
Well, sometimes they're so big, they're pretty. You know,
Well, they are.
And they get to the point, it's like, oh, is that a weed or did I plant that kind of thing? You know?
They can get really big. It's our soil is very nutritious for them.
Absolutely. So I've got a couple things poked in here. We talked about the pear and then fritillaria.
Yes, that one's ivory bells.
Which I should know that because I said, but it's green, and you said it doesn't matter. They call it ivory bells. And then these are
Leucogenum, but they're also known as snow bells.
those are so cute. I know they're not Edelweiss, but they make me think of The Sound of Music when I see them. So
I just like the little dancer
the little
part
dancer
of it.
part
Yes.
of it. Yeah. Ricky, what's up?
So Lori is wondering, going along with how you grow things, are you growing things in a greenhouse or is it all just open field?
Oh, okay, that's a really good question. So almost all of it is open field. We do have a couple tunnels that are not technically a greenhouse because we don't heat them, but they do have 2 layers of plastic with a fan in between to help insulate it a little bit. So no greenhouses, mostly open field, and then a couple of the high tunnels that are covered with plastic.
That's pretty cool. And what you have the heirloom mums in a greenhouse, or are they field growers?
So the heirloom mums, they grow like crazy in our field, but you have to put them under plastic because they start blooming a little bit later and you have to avoid the frost that can come. So those are in another one of our high tunnels, and it's 2 layers of plastic with the fan that puffs it up and gives a little bit of protection.
Okay, that's cool. So I know I didn't ask this early on, but I'll remind you, turn your camera sideways if you want to see us bigger, swipe left or right to get rid of comments, and do we have any first timers? Is this the first time you've joined us live and in person for live? If so, type that in there so that we can give you a shout out. Leanne.
Tiffany is a first time live. She's watched us on replay, but it's her first time joining us for live.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Tiffany, you picked a heck of a good day to be here live, let me tell you. If you're at all interested in growing flowers or about cool varieties that you can grow, this is the day to ask about them. So I'm just grouping these little babies into...
They look so pretty.
Don't they? I know. It's just like, it just makes me happy.
Me too.
I love seeing different product, unusual product. And I think we say this a lot here in Portland, and I apologize, that we're super lucky in Portland. Our market is amazing. Everybody's under one big roof. It's easy access. And we have our big wholesale houses, but then our middle market, which we call it, is the local growers, and we get amazing stuff like this because you don't have to grow 5,000, except dahlias, 5,000 of something and have a beautiful mix to bring to market for our local people. Leanne.
So, some great questions. We're going to steal Linda here.
Good, go for it.
I've got 3.
Okay.
One's a comment. Jim said that he used to live on 15 acres, so he applauds you because he knows 10 is a lot. So that was interesting. Then Scott would like to know, are there certain flowers that you are known for that you grow, or do you just grow anything and everything?
Great question,
That is
Scott.
such a good question. I love that question. We were talking about that a little bit before we went live. So there are a few that I'm definitely known for. Narcissus. We were talking about how I grow at least 40 different varieties of the daffodils. I just stopped counting at 40. So we're known for that one. Dahlias. We are really known for our dahlias. I think, I don't know, we've doubled how many we have in, but I think we'll probably be close to 30,000 this coming summer, something like that. It's a real lot.
Say
they
that
grow
again.
great. About 30,000 plants of dahlias.
Okay.
It's a lot.
That's
It's
a lot.
lot.
How many flowers does that translate into?
A
Ballpark.
lot.
A lot.
A real lot. We'll just start cutting like probably mid-June, and these are all out in the field. I don't have any of these under cover, and they'll go up until, with good quality plants, probably the middle of October. If you have an early frost, that might change it. Sometimes you have to watch out for some aphids or something. Our delphinium, they love our delphinium. And then we do grow some other things. What I really try to work on is, what does our farm grow best? What's easy for us, and do I enjoy growing it as well? And so we focus on those. And the other key part is, I try to have something going, like your focal flowers, from the earliest spring all the way through to that killing frost at the end of the season. And so for us, our focal flowers are coming on in March, and they go all the way ending with our heirloom chrysanthemums in November. So no, I don't grow everything. Sometimes it feels like it, but no.
But not really.
No, not really.
Can you hand me a couple pieces of the ruscus over there? That would be awesome.
So then the third question that came up was from Lori, and I know this is an answer that probably isn't going to come out of your mouth really, but I'm still going to throw it out there because I thought, yep, there you go. So Lori has about 100 acres and 25 of it in fields, and she thinks it would be pretty great. So how much does it cost to set up a farm? And then Jim responded, a bazillion labor hours. And so I don't know if there's even a broad answer you can give there of any sort. Or
Sure,
any
I can.
recommendation that, you know, like start with a 10 by 10 plot and see if you do it.
Right?
There's something to that. Okay, Lori, well, that's awesome. Great aspirations. I love it. So I would honestly say, if you don't already have a lot of growing experience under your belt with flowers, start small. Honestly, even an acre is a real lot to take care of. And on your 25 out of 100 acres, was that pasture? Is it in turf grass? What was growing or is growing on that? So the first thing you're going to have to do is figure out what that is and kill it off so that you can plant. I don't know if you want to tarp it or whatever. It does cost a lot. Can you start out without a lot of implements? Absolutely. We started out without even like really a tractor. Were we successful? No. Did I learn a lot? I sure did. It was a struggle. It was really hard. And then, you know, but you figure it out and you just kind of keep reinvesting into that. And having machinery helps a lot. We have bed layers and drip irrigation and all of that, but it came at a cost. Also, I didn't just jump in as a flower farmer. I had another business. My husband worked off farm. And by doing those things and setting us up, we were able to focus more and more of our time and our money into our flower farm. And am I glad I did it? You bet. I can't ever imagine doing anything else. But it is expensive. It does cost a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you're willing to come and spill the tea that, oh, it's not all rainbows and sunshine, and we need the rainbows and the sunshine, but we see a lot of Insta fabulousness that is Insta fake, and you're not going to get that with us. We're gonna rip the Band-Aid off and tell you the truth about it here. Beautiful otherwise, or moving on.
And you know, and there are some people who can grow. I mean, if it depends on what you're doing, you can grow a real lot on a small area. But if you're thinking like the scale I'm at, it took a long time to get here. So if you're looking at my pictures and you see all of this, don't think that like I just went out and a year later, this is what I was doing. It took a long time, a lot of learning and mistakes also to get to where we are. You can do it, but you're really going to be investing a lot.
A lot of time and
money and energy.
Resources, absolutely. And do you have helpers on the farm? Do you have workers, or is it just the two of you and the dog?
It's my husband and I. You know, he's now working full-time on the farm. He actually left a corporate job almost a year ago to be full-time on the farm. That's amazing. And I have one staff person who comes out part-time. She washes buckets. She helps us bundle. She'll do some transplanting with us, but it is very limited part-time labor. It's just the two of us.
Leanne, question.
So several people are kind of onto your dahlias. So a master question has come up from several, both on Facebook and YouTube, is do you dig your tuber?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
I don't dig.
That might be, because I was saying, that's a lot of digging.
That is so much labor. We have done some in the past. We were not successful with overwintering them. They can't dry out, they can't rot. I've done both. No, we leave them in the ground. We grow in this magical golden belt where I don't have to dig the tubers. When we plant them, we have a bed maker that does a little bit of a raised bed. It drops strip tape, it drops a plastic mulch. Now we're starting to put the tubers in with like a planting thing that has spikes and you still have to dig the holes and plant them. But anyways, the drainage is fine and we lose very, very few over the winter. I'm not really sure what we'll do if they get to be too big of a clump because it hasn't happened yet where, you know, they say every 3 years you have to divide them. We haven't really run into that. So no, we don't dig them.
So then that comes to the same answer. Rick wanted to know if you sell your tubers.
No, I don't. I don't sell tubers because that's not where my expertise lies. I don't want to deal with, you know, any of the gall or diseases or viruses that someone might get. I just grow for the stems. I love cutting the flower stems and selling beautiful cut flowers, and I'll leave the tubers to someone else.
That sounds like a good deal. And I'm not a digger. Like I said earlier, I put it in the ground and God bless you. Do what you can because I'm not helping you once you're in the dirt.
So I've got one last question and then I'll let you guys get back to designing.
Sure.
Dennis wants to know how you deal with the 4-footed plant eaters, i.e. deer.
Haha, we don't have them. Sorry, that's so mean, Dennis. I'm sorry that you have deer. We don't have deer. And funny little backstory, we bought our farm, I guess it's been like 17 years. And you know, someone said to me, what do you do about the deer? And I said, well, we don't have deer. And they're like, what are you talking about? You live in Clatskanie. There are deer everywhere.
Yeah.
Then I started noticing there are deer everywhere in everybody's front yards, their backyards. You see them walking down the street. We're on 17 acres and we have no deer because we were meant to grow flowers there is the only thing I can think of. We are just so lucky. So I don't have to deal with that. I'm sorry that you do.
Because your acreage would be Eat It Joe's, like a big light pointing to deliciousness between, well, all of it, frankly, would be deliciousness.
And we've planted an orchard. Before we did flowers, we did vegetables and fruit trees, and now I just cut the branches so that we can have beautiful, you know, flowering branches, so we don't even deal with the fruit, and still no deer.
Well, you're lucky.
I am
for
so
sure.
lucky.
So
I know.
lucky.
I know. I feel guilty, but not really.
So I just went with a little scoop of nature, as if I went out to Linda and her husband's farm and took my shovel and just dug up a section. Granted, the tree would be much taller than the fritillaria, but wanted to keep it pretty natural. Yes, my foam is showing. Yes, it was intentional. I'm not adding anything else to it. I'm just done. But this just feels like spring in a little box to me.
I love this one so much. This is such my style right here. I love it.
Well, we'll slide this one off and we'll tackle another one. While we do that, tell us a little bit about the flower side, the selling flower side. You grow all this beautiful stuff, but now you have a space at market.
Yes.
And you know, how is that going? Because I know you quintupled basically your space from when you first started, so I assume it's going well.
It's going great. So we are vendors in the Oregon Flower Growers Association. That's also known as Middle Market at the Portland Flower Market. It's where all the local flower growers, if we're members, we can grow our flowers there, sell our flowers there. We did bump up. We have about 9 stall spaces, and what we did last year is we put in a really big cooler. It's a commercial grade cooler, and when we bought this cooler, we got super lucky because we bought it from like a warehouse in downtown Portland, and it was a pub or brewery that had gone out of business. So we bought this massive cooler with all of the units and everything for like $5,000, and then we just had to take it apart and do what we needed to do. So I think right at this point, it would probably be about a $60,000 one if I had to buy it. You know,
amazing.
Thank you. And so then just a couple, not even a couple months ago, our neighbor next to us at the market had moved on, and so we took over that space and we expanded that cooler with the panels we had left over. So what's really nice about it is that we're not breaking the cold chain. You know, we harvest, it goes into chilled water at our farm with the conditioner, it goes in our farm coolers, it's taken care of, and then we take it to the market and it goes right in a cooler and it stays in there. So I think that's been ideal for keeping our product looking really
top notch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a labor of love when you're in your cooler. You can tell everything is tidy. It's labeled. Everything's priced. It's organized. As the consumer of the product, I appreciate that.
Thank
I
you.
like it when I know what it is I'm getting, and I know what I'm paying for it. And you do follow proper care and handling, the chain of life. Everything's clean, and that's huge because that adds to the vase life that we have of our product.
Yep. Buckets are sanitized. You rotate out so you just don't have things sitting there that are too old. Because, that's the other thing to remember is that when you have your product in a cooler, it's in like a suspended animation, right? So it looks great in the cooler, but if you've left it in there too long, when your florist buys it and brings it home, it may not last that long if you've left it too
If
long.
you've cheated on it.
Yeah, you can't cheat. Exactly.
No cheating in floral.
So no, I would say that that's going really well. That's our big market right there. We love it. We're so happy to be part of that.
Good. So,
that's fun.
Isn't this fun? This was over in the corner. It's like, okay, we're going to use this because we can.
I like it.
And this is flowering quince.
Yes.
And I don't know if the camera is going to do it justice enough, Ricky. If I slide it, can we get that in the close up? Sort of. Like that. It is so beautiful. It's like a corally.
They call it peach, but
Peach,
it
but
really
it's-
is
No, it's got more, I don't know.
orangey tones
More
to
orangey
it.
tone, and I got too much water in my hair. Oof,
It's kind of the same color as the inside of Cara oranges, where they're like not quite bright orange.
Yes, that's a really good example on that. And what I have in here is a giant Kenzon. It's, I don't know, about 5 inches across. And I'm just going for something that just showcases the floral. Not going to get too hung up on
This is so
what
fun,
it is.
though.
Yeah,
Look at
it's
that.
just, we're just going to play with our food.
So fancy.
And while you're playing, the question is, does Fritillaria have a fragrance?
Let me smell. I've never noticed.
I didn't even think to sniff it.
I'm going to say no. This one does not. And I only grow this green one called Ivory Bells. Well, I have in the past grown the black one, so maybe the other ones do. But I don't notice any smell at all. Just like that fresh smell that you get from fresh flowers.
And then they are identifying that you're working in a Kenzon. and
Yes.
saying, oh, she's got a big Kenzon.
Yes,
Here's a
I
Kenzon.
do. I wanted to take advantage of the stem. If you have a spring bloom, like the hyacinth that
Does smell good.
I'll be right back. The hyacinth that we have here, these are just almost electric. They are reading very blue on the camera in the studio, but they're much more, it's Barney purple is kind of what I would call it. I know it's not on the color wheel, but that's what I would identify it. They have a softer stem, so using the Kenzon makes it really nice because I can just spike them down on that. Foam insertions sometimes can be a little tricky. That's why I did that parallel placement, the vertical design. So I'm just going straight down in with those stems. And this one, we're just gonna do just a riot of color. So the hyacinth, you brought in three different colors. The purpley blue violet I'm working with, the pink, and then what I would say is pretty much a true red violet.
Yeah.
How did you get started with hyacinth? Are they just a favorite of yours?
They just smell so good. Yes, I like to grow a lot of the different bulb crops. These smell so amazing. And I love using them in my floral shop in little pieces like corsages because I can tuck them right in and it just looks so special and fancy. They hold up really well too without the water if you've got a nice open bloom. So we do grow a lot of these. When I cut mine, I don't do the, recommended way where they say, you cut it down and you leave part of the bulb on. I don't. I just cut them and use them as is. They're great in shorter arrangements. Florists buy them in the shorter arrangements too. And then what's nice about that is those blooms still come back. Whereas if you cut up that bulb, that's it.
You're kind of SOL on it. And then you mentioned the flower shop. So you not only grow this amazing product, she has a flower shop on property.
Yes.
That does amazing work. I would say
you.
your claim to fame is sympathy work.
Thank
you do
you.
just amazing sympathy designs. Ricky, do you have a question? Sorry.
Yes. So I've kind of got like a two-part question. First part is, what is your easiest flower to grow? And the second part is, do you have a favorite wow flower that you grow?
Okay. I think my easiest one, like hands down, it has to be the narcissus. Those are super easy for me. They grow amazing on our farm. I don't have to do a lot. Once you get them planted and you do that, that can be a little backbreaking labor, but once you get them planted and you just take care of them, that's it. I love the narcissus. My wow, I think I'm biased because I love dahlias. So I would say every single one of my dahlias is my wow flower. Yeah. Some people think it's like the fralarias or something like that, but no, for me, it's those dahlias.
And then obviously you use the product that you grow in the flower shop?
Yes, absolutely. I use it, I shop at the Portland Flower Market too. I shop from other local growers. But it elevates my designs when I can go out and pick something that's so fresh, or I'm looking for a certain color or a texture, and there it is growing on my farm. And I'm always sad at the end of my season when I don't have any of my own growing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay. And it takes a little while to reboot and figure out what I'm going to do without my own product.
Then you have to go buy it like the rest of us do.
But I do mark it up though. So, even though like I'm growing it, it's not free flowers that I use in my designs. I mark it up exactly as if I were selling it or buying it from myself at the market, because you never know when maybe I don't have that. And when I'm pricing out my arrangements, I need to account for that and pay myself for it too.
So do you as the farmer sell your product to the florist side of your business?
No, I thought about that at some point. No, I really don't. That's a good question how I do that. But no, when I'm selling it out to a client and I'm marking up and how I charge for it, I charge accordingly. Sometimes I take off like the labor fee of it or something because my overhead is a little bit different. Having a studio, it's not the same as like when I was out on a highway and I had a retail building.
Sure, that makes good sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad to hear you say she's charging appropriately. Yeah. If you've come to flower school, we teach that. We teach you flower math. We teach you how to account for the cost of your goods and the finished design. Because if you have these growing today and you're like, oh, but they grew in my yard, or I grew them, and you don't charge for them in 3 weeks when they're not blooming on your property and you have to buy them, now you're either having to charge more for that arrangement or you're shrinking that profit margin. So if anybody had told me there was this much math in floral design, would never have gone that route. So much mathing. But I like flower math. That's how I get paid.
That's how you get paid.
So who is this little doll that I'm going to play with now?
I'm looking at this one, and I'm almost certain this one is called...
Sorry,
it's that one, right? No, I think this one got mixed in, and I think this is one of my Eggs Benedict. It doesn't look like the Eggs Benedict when you look it up what it's really supposed to be. That happens a lot as a flower farmer. You order like crates of a certain variety, and you don't know until they bloom that that's not actually what it is. So I'm not sure. This was marked as Eggs Benedict.
Okay, well, we're going to call it Eggs Benedict today.
Not the scrambled egg, right? But
not
like Eggs
scrambled
Benedict.
Eggs, but I like that. So that's a really good question. When you order the product in, when are you doing that? Obviously you didn't plant these last week.
No.
So Daffy's go in when to get them?
Yeah. So we plant our narcissus usually for us starting about October as we have time. November. This year I was actually doing some extra ones and I was putting them in January, and they did bloom and they did fine. But the trick is, so if you want to have narcissus to harvest next year and you're harvesting it in the spring, you need to be putting your order in the spring.
Okay.
That's when. It used to be years and years ago you could wait, but there's so many people now jumping into flower farming that the demand is up and there's not as much product for it. So to get the ones that you want, start placing your orders, as they're coming out of the ground.
Order early and order often, right?
Yep.
Leanne, you have a question?
Well, comment, they are absolutely adoring the hyacinth colors, and everybody has a different favorite, but they're loving them. Then the comment is, when do you sleep? And then the real question is, do you have a favorite dahlia variety?
All of them. How do you choose your favorite child, right? They're all my favorite. Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, ask me what my favorite like purple is or my favorite orange or something like that. I love them all. For myself personally, that I don't sell wholesale, I love those shaggy big dinner plate ones that don't last very long. I don't like Cafe LA though, but unlike the other ones, I
know everybody else does.
Yeah, so I don't know. It just depends on what color I need to work with. We grow a lot of the decorative formals, some water lilies, a lot of the ball ones. I like striking vivid colors too. Salmon Runner though. I love Salmon Runner. Give that one a little search engine and see what you come up with. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you pick a crop to plant? How do you decide I'm going to plant whatever is?
You know, when I'm not sleeping at night,
Exactly,
I'm staying up really
yes.
late. At this point, I feel like I've been doing it for so long that I'm continuing to grow more of what I was already growing that I was successful with. But when I started, honestly, I started with what I love. What flowers do I want to be surrounded with? Do I want to use in arrangements? Even before I went to design school, it's like, what do I love? And then you try it, and sometimes you're just not a very good grower with it. And so then I would move on. But a really important thing to think about is that if you want to grow flowers on the scale like I'm doing, you need to be growing what your market is going to buy. And that is different for everyone. It depends on where you live, if you're at a farmer's market, if you're selling to florists, if you're doing, like a roadside stand. So really think about who your target client is and grow what they want, because you don't make money growing flowers, you make money selling flowers.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Mm-hmm. Don't make money growing the flowers, you make money selling the flowers.
You lose a lot of money growing flowers.
Yeah, okay, well,
but you need to sell them.
But you need to sell them in order to make the money.
Yes.
I get that. That makes sense. Absolutely.
That one is so fun and whimsical. I love
it.
it.
Yeah, I was just going for, a riot of color. We've got polychromatic going on here, and I'll tuck a few of these gorgeous little pink ones in to help. Whoop, stay there, Quince. Do as you're told. But I just wanted to showcase the blooms. We're seeing a lot of not foliage heavy arrangements, very bloom heavy, not a ton of foliage. This is on the actual branch, so obviously I'm not going to strip that off, but a lot of that with wedding work. Mm-hmm. And speaking of wedding work, what kind of flowers do you get that you grow that are most requested for weddings?
Oh, dahlias.
Dahlias, of course. Okay.
Dahlias are a really big one. Our phlox, the delphinium. It kind of depends. Like a really pretty white Cosmo, it kind of depends on what the bride's palette is. I love garden roses, and I'm not a very good garden rose grower. I have some out there that I can cut a little bit off of, but I'm not a very good garden rose grower as much as I love them. So dahlias is the big one that we get all the time. Mm-hmm. Even if it's out of season, someone's asking about dahlias for their wedding.
Wanting them now, or
yes,
just saying,
and not
I'm getting married in the fall and I want them?
Both.
Okay.
But a lot of times, I'm getting married beginning of June, or dahlias ready. And then peonies. We do grow a lot of peonies, and that is another one that brides ask for, are the peonies.
I love peonies. I like tulips, and Angelo and I've already talked about how he doesn't love tulips, but I like tulips.
Angelo's my husband.
Could you grow me some tulips? Just one little bunch.
They're beautiful looking. Difficult to grow and make a profit.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. I will take that assessment. Ricky, yes, sorry, I didn't see your hand back there.
No, you're fine. So we have a question from Scott. He
Uh-huh.
wants to know, what kind of growing disasters have you had? What ones do not work and you're like, never again?
Oh, why do we bring up the ugly? Tulips.
Scott.
Scott, it's tulips. You want to experience some of that? Grow some tulips. Tulips, I love them. They are absolutely gorgeous. I miss not having them, but they're a disaster for us on our farm. You can, and I would plant by the thousands, of course, but you can have them, and one variety is just beautiful. It's coming along, right in the same row, that next variety was diseased. Something happened to it. It's not coming up. It could be like the wrong bulb that they sent you. So now instead of these nice long ones that you are going to sell, they're short little stumpy ones. Maybe you don't have enough water in your field because they need a lot of water. And generally we have a really wet winter. Well, maybe you didn't. And so they didn't get enough water and they're short. A couple years ago is why we stopped growing them. We ran into a lot of that. And while I was out there, and these tulips are just popping like crazy because we had an unexpected heat wave coming in. I'm looking at the field over there and it's my peonies. And if I hadn't been wasting all of my time trying to save these tulips because I felt like, oh, I put all the money into the bulbs and the time, I should have been working on those peonies. Those peonies definitely would have had a home and would have sold. So at that point, that was when we realized tulips, that's not for us. I just have to back off the tulips.
Good question, Sky.
That's why I don't have tulips for you.
Okay, that's fair enough. I guess I can live with that. I'll have to get my tulips somewhere else. Let's see, what do we have for foliage over there? Maybe some jasmine. Let's do a little bit of jasmine. See if we can tuck that in there. Got it. So right now you're coming off the end of daffodils, yes?
Yeah, we have a few more weeks left, but
Okay.
it's winding down.
All right, and then what's your next bloomer coming up?
Lilac. Our lilacs are coming on. The peonies are budding up. We'll have some of the like coral ones will be a little bit early. And then I would expect right before Mother's Day, the peony field should be up and going. Dutch iris are coming on. The alliums are starting to bud up. I think those are the big ones right now. Can you think of another one? Delphiniums. The delphiniums are starting to spike up for us right now.
Nice. And then how many varieties of delphiniums do you have?
I think I only have probably three. I have a really pretty lavender, a sky blue, and then like a really bright blue one.
Do you have the
a white one.
Volkafrieden or Belladonna
Yes.
blue, that electric?
Yes, we have one of those too.
Oh, those are pretty.
Maybe I have some more tucked in there. I forgot about.
We'll find out very shortly when they show up at market.
Yeah. I know if I didn't walk around with I have the spreadsheet and the Farm Bible, which is a binder, and I'm like, oh, what was in this row? You believe it or not, you just kind of forget what you're growing, even though you have labels and tags. It's just amazing how that can happen.
So you said the Farm Bible and the spreadsheet. How do you track all of this acreage of beautiful bloom?
You can't see my husband; he's laughing back there. It's
Rubbing
really
his head.
hard. So say we're growing on 11 acres, and you've got your rows out there, and I put the metal little tags in. It's got the row number and what I'm growing, and then as you're walking down the row, when they're not growing, you've lost where you are. It's so hard to know what am I growing. But I do Google spreadsheets. I love Google spreadsheets. I don't like Excel. So everything has rows, and I've got names for all of my fields, and I might have a silly name like, the field by Tucker. Well, that's just where our dog was, so that's how I know what field that is. But it helps me remember. And then I have a white binder, and I have the little page inserts, and in pencil on graph paper, I have the field name, what was planted, when I did it, and then also I try to leave it for a year so that if something else pops up, I can look back and go, oh, well, that's what that was. I didn't plant it this year, but it was left over from last year. I didn't dig it out or something.
Okay, that makes good sense. Again, too much mathing and floral for my taste, but spreadsheets make it a good way to do it. And then do you have a farm plot, like a planogram that has the fields numbered, or how do you keep track?
And we need to do that. Spreadsheets,
Just
graph
all
paper.
spreadsheets?
I love graph paper and a sharp pencil. I'm not kidding. That is my favorite right there because you can go through, you can update, you can take it out in the field with you on a clipboard.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to remember to update what you did. So we put in a real lot of digitalis, and I don't know if it was 4 or 5 different varieties. And when you're putting those plugs in, you've got the trays, they're all labeled, you know what you're doing, you wrote it on a little scratch of paper. When they're all in, you stand there and you look at that and you're like, oh, what row did I start the Camelot white in? Which row was the... And so you really need to keep track of that and then transfer it over. Or wait until they bloom and then you know.
Wait until you bloom and then you know. I like that. That's kind of how I live my life. Well, let's just see what happens and we'll check it out at that point.
Because really doesn't matter if this was the lavender or the pink, as long as they're blooming.
As long as they bloom and
Yeah.
you don't care. Okay, that makes good sense. All right, so I'm gonna quit poking fun stuff into here with our little riot of spring color with a little bit of
I
attitude
love
from
this.
the,
That is, I never would have thought about that. That's so unexpected.
well, you know, that's me, little left to
A
center.
riot of color,
A
absolutely.
riot of color, yes, it is a cornucopia of spring color, we'll go with that. And I got too much water in there, as you notice it's spilling everywhere. Ricky, what you got?
Yeah, we've got lots of good questions from our tulip bed
Excellent,
today.
fire away.
Tess, our friend in Sweden, is wondering, what do you see for the future of flower farmers? And what do you expect to stay the same and change?
Oh, well, that's a really in-depth question, Tess. What do I see in the future? You know, I see a lot of people wanting to move into flower farming, and I get that because I'm here doing it too. So I think you'll have a lot of people that pick it up and run with that. It's beautiful. There's a lot of hard work to it, but you know, it works. What would change about it? You know, I'm not sure. I think maybe like right now, if we're thinking about like our economic climate a little bit, I think maybe being a little more careful about what we're planting out there. Like I love to just trial new things. You know, we all love flowers. That's why we're doing this, right? So maybe in the past where I would have been like, ooh, you know, I'm going to try some of this and some of that. I really have to think about, do I have a market for it? And can I afford if that doesn't, if it doesn't sell, if it doesn't do well? So kind of thinking about growing more of what it is that I actually do well. And I think maybe some other farmers are doing that too. I don't know if that really answered your question. That's one I really would like to think about because it's a really good one.
Tess has lots of good questions.
Yeah.
Was that Tess from Sweden, Tess?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Could you hand me the bind wire? There's a little spool of
yes.
brown bind wire there. I'm gonna see if I can get these babies to do as I wish, bend to my will. And what is this that I'm playing with at the moment?
Oh, this is one of my curly willows. This one came off of one of my red curly willows actually. And it's really leafed out too.
He
I
is
think
very
it's
pretty.
Very
I like
fresh
it.
looking. Me too.
And it should do well in water, at least that's the plan. Stay for a minute.
So while you're doing that, Connie would like to know, do you stagger your planting times?
Oh, good
Like, are
question.
you thinking succession planting? Do I
Right, I was
stagger?
thinking like daffodils, do you plant them all at the same time?
Oh, yes, yes. So, you know, you want to plant them in the fall. They need to have like however many hours of cold time. Just where we live, they just grow like crazy. So I'm kind of lucky not needing to know how many hours of cold they need. But as soon as those crates are coming in, we're just out there planting until we can't take it anymore and the last bulb is in the ground. But you know, you don't need to do that every year either. Once you have the amount of daffodils that you want, they're in. You just keep the soil topped off. After the first year of blooming, you just want to go ahead and give them some fertilizer, and that's about it. So we, however, love our narcissus, and you didn't ask me. I thought you might, but I'm planting more narcissus.
Well, I didn't ask you how many you had of those. Just
yeah.
the dahlias. How many narcissus do you have, Linda?
Well, before I lost count, I think we're just under 20,000 narcissus, and then my order is already in. Remember, you have to order them early, and we'll be putting in about another 23,000 narcissus.
Oh my gosh.
So they're a great spring crop for us, and yeah.
And so do you treat those the same way you do the dahlias, that you're not
Oh
digging
yeah,
them?
oh no, don't dig them. You
You're
just leave them
and they're
in.
going to have babies the next year.
Well, you know, eventually they do break off some more, but we just leave them in. I think we have one plot that we put in probably 5 years ago, and this was the first year I looked at some of them and thought, did they not bloom as much because we kept driving over it, or was it because maybe they've gotten so big now it's time to dig them up and divide some of them?
Wow.
But succession planting, no, like some of those things like bulbs, that's what I love about it. Where we are, you just put them in, except for tulips, those people would have to do that every year. But we put them in once, you're done. Again, like our dahlias, they go in once, they stay in there. Really because I grow so many perennials and so many bulbs, unless I want to expand my field with them, I just leave them in. Annuals, again, like where we live, I don't need to do succession planting on things like cosmos or zinnias. When I'm planting my zinnias, those are my annuals, I just give them a little more space so that you don't have to worry about powdery mildew like some people do. And they just flush all season for us. So maybe if they start blooming in, say, July, I plant mine a little bit later, so it might be like late July. They will just go until we get a killing frost and I'm done. If I had to succession plant, I just wouldn't. I don't have time for it. I think the only thing we would succession plant would be sunflowers. The single, yep, my husband's like sunflowers. The single stem sunflowers. But I also love the branching sunflowers, and there are some nice pollenless ones that you can do too. So.
Excellent. I wouldn't have thought to ask about the succession
Yeah.
planting, but that makes sense
But-
if you're trying to get something blooming over the course of a
Yeah.
season, just
Well-
a rolling bloom season. I am fighting with this curly willow. He is not playing well with me today. So we're just going to move on and pretend that he's doing what
I
Michelle
think
wants.
he's exactly right.
You think so? I think
I do
he's
too.
being stubborn, but that's okay.
I was thinking, going back to that succession planting, I think another key part of that is that I really put a lot of thought into making sure I had from very early to the end of my season, and even within the same crop, like peonies, I have the ones that are my early, mid, my late bloomers. And so just by planting the varieties, it'll extend the season for you so that you're not trying to fill in with all of these other things.
That makes good sense. Now, this is so fun. What is this?
Okay, this is burning bush, and I am going to really mess up the name. I had to look up how do you pronounce. It's Unimus. Unimus. Yes, but it's burning bush. If you look up burning bush, that's what it is, and it is such a pretty delicate, surprising pop of color.
It is, and we were talking about, we're in the spring, right? So you have all of those, the pastel-y or the bright pops of color, and this is really more that fall palette, but it looks fantastic when you put it with the peach tones or the orange tones. It looks great with the yellow. It's a little more high contrast, but remind me of these.
The chroma color.
Chroma color, it just makes that color pop, I think. So I think we'll tuck a few of those chroma color in here along with this.
And they have those nice stiff stems too.
Yes. When you first brought it in, I thought it was Nandina because of the color, but then as I got close, I didn't have my glasses on. But as she got it closer, I realized, oh, that's not Nandina. That's something extra special and different. Does this flower?
It does. And if you look closely, I tried to snip a lot of those off. What I should have done last year when I was planting all those daffodils is I should have gone through and actually cut that back. And then that way all the fresh ones coming up wouldn't have shown like those little dried out flowers. So I'll remember that for next year. It'll go in the Farm Bible.
It's just texture, right? It's okay. We're good with texture, she says, as she fights with Mr. Curly Willow a little bit more. He's behaving a little bit better. What I was going for was kind of a basket handle. The designs that I've put together are all kind of springy. Well, they are springy, but they're all kind of Eastery at that point. So this is my contemporary take on an Easter basket, if you will. And I think we'll use and I've lost the name again.
Chroma color.
Chroma color. Oh my goodness.
The goldfish.
Gonna get that's what I keep thinking of. It's the koi plant. It's the koi plant. And then what are those gorgeous little darlings?
Oh, this is a euphorbia, and it is Ascot Rainbow, and they have nice stiff little stems too, but you have to watch out for these because like all euphorbias, it'll have a milky sap when you cut it. So if you're sensitive to that, you might want to wear some gloves at first. Once you've cut it and you put it in the water to like just drip, it'll go away, just like narcissus do the same thing. But
Scooting that forward a little into the close-up camera.
Oh, yep. There you go.
Is that
A little
right?
bit yep, there you go.
Perfect.
Good job.
oh, thank you. And then if you look in really close, it's got that really pretty green, and there's like the center is like a tip of a burgundy or a rusty red. So Ascot Rainbow.
And is that a new variety for you, a new grower this year?
It is.
Or
It's the first year it's actually bloomed with any height because I left them in plug trays for about a year.
Whoopsie.
They're hardy. And then I put them in a row and the grass took it over, and then we found them. Remember how I don't know where everything is? And we dug them back out and replanted them in a better area. So I'm really happy to have them.
they are just, I don't know, there's just something unique about them, unique about their structure. Oh, of course I got one that isn't perky. Well, guess what? Everything is pretty in nature. We're not going to judge the flower because he's not perky today. So we're going to grab a few of these to tuck in just for a little bit of texture, puts a little pop of color down in there. So what new things do you have coming down the pike as far as planting? Do you have some new that you want to share? Maybe you don't want to tell everybody.
It's my secret. No. What are some new things? Gosh, I think really at this point, most of what we're doing is just more of what did well for us, what we grew really well. I didn't really do a lot of new trials this year. I just kind of felt it was time to really hone in on what we're doing, do a better job of growing it. I think we do a good job growing, but just kind of really focus in on what we already have. And then the items that sold well for us, doing more. So like for us, it was narcissus. Dahlias do really well for us. Phlox. That was a really good one, like the tall garden phlox. That's a great seller. And like the delphiniums. Those are things that are just easy for us to grow and people just love them.
So if you have any questions, you have about 4 minutes to type them in so that we can ask Linda while we have this wealth of flower farmer knowledge. Ricky, you have a question. Good.
Yeah, one that came in earlier
Okay.
when we were discussing the narcissus. So you said you planted like 20,000 bulbs. What does that roughly translate to in area? Like how many acres?
Oh, well, when I say I did 20,000 bulbs, I mean, it's been over several years. So some of those I started planting before I even knew flower farming was a thing. It's not an acre. I mean, it's shocking how many you can put together. So I would say in like, say you have a wooden bed and it is like 3 feet wide and maybe it's like, what do you think, 10 feet, 20 feet?
There were 100-foot rows, 80-foot rows.
Well, but I'm going to break them down by the bed. So I think I was getting in about 500, just under 600 daffodil bulbs in a bed that's 20 feet long and like 3 feet wide. Now remember, I'm not planting them like you do in your landscape. I'm planting them pretty darn close together, and I always buy really big bulbs, so they're about like that. And then I'm putting them with maybe 2 fingers in between them is all, and they do great. So it's not acres. I can't imagine acres. I guess it sounds like that if you don't know, but no, it's not.
But that was more impressive. You should just have gone with that.
It's 4 acres.
There you go. So, Linda, as we wrap up, if you could share 3 things with the Tulip Bunch who might be interested in getting started in growing flowers, maybe just for their own use, what 3 things would you suggest that they start with? Like before you get all excited with the seed catalogs, or what direction would you give them?
Okay, the first thing is what I never wanted to hear, but I'm telling you, it's your infrastructure. It's your infrastructure. Make sure that you have water going to where you want it to go. Make sure that that you are able to put the tunnels up, the covers up. How are you going to keep the grass back? I mean, really kind of look at some of those things. That's not the fun, exciting part. But you will be so thankful that you did that, because I've gone through where I'm like, I really wish I would have done that a little bit differently. So, look into your infrastructure, and then maybe just pick like, again, I did not do this, but I would say to my younger self, pick maybe like 5 things that you really want to grow and learn them inside and out. Really know what their needs are, because if you can meet the needs of that flower, you're going to do great. Every flower has a need. Figure out what they want and give them what they want. That part. And the third thing I would tell someone starting out, if you are doing it just for yourself, grow what you want. But if you are doing it because you want to sell it and make some money on it, know who your market is. Know who you're selling that to, because, a wedding florist is not going to want the same thing necessarily that someone at a farmer's market wants. And you've probably heard that, but it's true. Know who you're trying to sell to, and then sell to that person. Don't try to go out and sell to everybody, because you're not going to do that great of a job. It's just too much to try to do everything. So focus in.
Well, excellent advice, and I hope from Linda's lips to your ears, if you are interested in growing for yourself or for sale or giant production, whatever, that you take a good long look at that. And you can always follow Linda on her social media. Keldonia and Susie, if you've got that link, if you haven't already put it up, if you could throw it up there so that they can find out where to follow Linda and see all the beauty that is happening out there in Clatskanie, Oregon. And I just want to thank you for bringing all the beauty in today and letting me play with it.
Oh,
So
it's so fun.
I hope you feel I did justice to all your beautiful product, and
yeah.
I hope that you out there, Tulip Bunch, felt like you spent a good hour with us. Linda and I got to do something we love today, so hopefully you did as well. So please join us next week, and if in fact we have inspired you to play with flowers, learn about floral, become a professional florist, be sure to check out our website. You can find a lot of free information there, but if you're really serious about it, come to flower school because you're going to learn so much. Karen, handling, design, theory, color, you name it, you're going to learn it. So be sure to check out our website, follow Linda if you don't already, and come back next week because we're going to have more fun. Have a great week, guys. Bye.